So thank you all for coming and being here this morning with us as we have a resident leadership breakfast that is really focused on the future of this organization and the future of your homes and your communities as NYCHA residents. I'm really happy to see the room is full today, and I really want to acknowledge you and all of our resident leaders, our citywide council presidents, and all the folks who are in the room that do the work day in and day out to make our communities what they are. And so the purpose of today is really threefold. It's to give you an update on where we are as an organization, and particularly in connection with our federal agreement. You'll hear from our colleagues who are focused on the really important work that NYCHA is doing to come into compliance with a number of areas of priority. We will also focus on a transformation plan for the agency, and so that is where we really want to hear your input so that we have the feedback that's necessary to change the way we do business to improve service delivery for residents. And then the third item on the agenda at the end of the day is we want to hear from you as resident leadership about how you really want to work with us as an agency. What are the ways in which we should work with you, the feedback loops that we should have, the understandings that we should have so that we have a really productive relationship. The goal is to really take that feedback and begin to formalize it in an agreement between NYCHA and resident leadership. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chair Russ, who will address you this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First of all, it's very exciting to be here. And it's very exciting to be here together with residents and staff. Many of you I've met on different trips or visits, and I've appreciated the welcome, and I've also appreciated the feedback and the things that you have to say, both when we do something right and also when we don't do something right. And part of what I wanted to say this morning echoes a little bit of what Sadia just talked about and what you'll hear. But let me frame it a little bit this way. We have a moment where if we are able to act together, we can change the course of the organization. We actually have an opportunity inside this monitorship agreement, because of the things NYCHA did not do earlier. We have this agreement, we have the monitor in place. But the agreement gives us, it makes three big demands on us, collectively, not just employees, but residents too. The first you hear about is we have to do and take certain steps to get NYCHA in compliance with many of the requirements that come to us from HUD and others. Lead is probably the most prominent example of that. The second thing it does is require that the Housing Authority produce a reorganization plan. Now, NYCHA has reorganized before. NYCHA has changed up a lot of stuff in different ways in the past. And why would this be different? Because we are compelled to produce a plan that the monitor will approve. If he does not like the plan, he has two choices. He can amend it, or he can disapprove it and impose his own plan. Now, I feel, and I think many of you do, I hope, that we would rather contribute to that plan together as opposed to have something imposed on us. Even with good intentions, it doesn't belong to us. And it should belong to us because we're actually both facing the same set of issues. Residents and staff are facing the same set of issues. And there's a couple things I'll say that we can see already. There must be a shift in the responsibilities, the resources, and capacity at the property level. We have to begin to look at this whole big organization that is NYCHA and say, what is our purpose here? Our purpose is to provide the best quality housing and service at the properties. And when we don't do that, we're not fulfilling our mission. In fact, on many of the issues that we get hung up on, we're not holding up our obligations of the lease, the contract we have with you. That does not put the organization in a very good spot. Because you're sitting on the other side saying, hey, wait a minute, you're not holding up your end, but you want me to hold up my end. And that's true. But I think we can change that. Because not only are we going to be compelled to create a new structure, we think this structure has to be rooted in the property itself. And what do I mean by that? The responsibilities and decision makings have to be there. That we have to have a very structured way of engaging residents so you feel like that it's a meaningful engagement. For example, we've been kicking around the idea, some of you have heard me talk about this, that we would create property-based budgets. And why would that be an advantage? Because in a property-based budget system, there's an opportunity for the property manager and the resident leadership to talk about at the beginning of the year what should be in that budget. Then there's a way to see how the property is spending its money and where that money is going. That, when we share information, we are stronger together. And that's real information. That's not like what, oh, I think I'm going to do this, or I should have done. That's actual information about what is happening to the finances of that property, and that impacts both the staff and impacts the residents in a very direct way. It's real information that you can use. The second part of that is we want to make sure that there's more decisions that the property managers and site staff can make there and not have to come downtown or someplace else. And that, to me, is two pieces of this formula that we're going to have to figure out when we work on this reorganization. Then there's the third demand that the agreement makes. We need to reinvest in these buildings. We need to put a lot of money back into these buildings. We're doing RAD. A lot of you are going to be part of RAD. Some of you may say, oh, RAD's not for me. I've heard all kinds of things about it. And I would say to you, I realize that. But we're in a situation where the current federal structure is not providing the operating subsidies we need at the level we need, but worse, the capital funding for the big construction jobs that we need to do in some of these buildings. If I come to you and say, oh, or you come to me, you say, I've got a mold problem. Where does that come from? That's a roof leak, that's water penetration, or it's pipes. It's pipes, for God's sakes. Everyone that runs up the riser is as old as I am. And that's pretty old. And 2 new hips, works out. But that needs to be addressed. When we talk about what's the root cause of some of these issues that we get hung up on, we need to put back new stuff. You see it every day. You tell me about it every day. So if we're going to address mold, we got to address pipes. If we're going to address heat, we have to change the heating plants. Right now we have almost all the properties, not all, but there's a central boiler. And then there's pipes underground that feed out to all the other buildings. In the building, there's a tank room. Then there's a riser. It goes all the way up to the radiator in your bedroom. And we lose energy at the boiler plant. 20% goes up the chimney. When we pump the steam to the building, 30% is lost in distribution. That's enormous loss of efficiency. So if we come and invest in these buildings, we would be looking to do building-based heat systems. And why is that even? It's better because we don't have the distribution law. When we have a break in the ground, it's one of the worst things that can happen for us to repair. It's really difficult. So one of the things that's going to come soon is a capital investment strategy. We're going to come talk to this very same group in smaller groups, individually and collectively, because we cannot sit here, none of us, and accept the lack of investment and the lack of capital in these buildings. Now, the president introduced his budget. Yes, I know. He introduced his budget. I'm not saying that budget has a chance in hell of getting passed, but it's a way of thinking. They zeroed out the capital fund for public housing. Zero. I could walk a block away and find $1 million worth of need. You know, one of the biggest places? Entryways and intercoms. And what are we going to do? Well, that's going to take, we have beautiful doors, and people are propping them open with a piece of stone or a cinder block. We have intercoms that don't work. We have to get to this stuff. This costs money. And I really did not appreciate when Dr. Carson visited here and said it's all management. Okay, we own some of this, no question. But you cannot manage in a building that's 70 years old and never been reinvested. So let's think about what we're going to ask. We're going to ask, we need to raise to stabilize our properties. To get to some of these really difficult issues, we have to raise somewhere in the vicinity of $15 billion. Now you may say, when I put that number out there, man, that guy is nuts. We could never raise that much money. But in fact, if we do this together, we can. We cannot do it, even if we have all the great ideas that we can muster as a housing authority or as people interested in doing a good job. We cannot do this without you. Because combined, our voices are stronger than just one of us speaking. Combined. And if we both speak to the same issue together, we can light some fires. And those fires are about a hope that we can change this organization and give you a better quality unit over time. This is not going to be easy. We're going to have folks tell us that this is impossible, but in fact, there is a path. And I'm asking you today, we have to walk it together. We do have to walk this together. I know that there are big differences when we don't perform the way we're supposed to perform, or you feel like you're not getting the service. And other times, we're right on top of it. But it's not even, it's not consistent. We can change that. With the reorganization, we can change how we manage. And if we raise the capital, we can change the buildings and make a difference in your unit, in your apartment, and all the apartments for the people you represent. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen some horrible conditions all over the country. I've seen folks here stay in their units because there really is no other place to go. Now is our time to make a change. Now is our time to make a demand. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be shy when we make that demand. I want to take something down to Dr. Carson. I want to hand him the demand and the path to that $15 billion. But I don't want to be there by myself. Because he's going to look at me and say, well, of course you're asking for that. You're the administrator. You know, you're the one that's going to benefit. But in fact, that's a benefit we share. So part of today is to begin to lay out a set of ideas on how the organization will function and work. But I'm going to tell you, we're going to come back and talk about this capital plan, because we got to do both of these things together. We have to change the management structure. That includes changing and making our connection better and tighter. And then we got to go raise some money. And if we don't get the money, we should raise some hell. So I'm just saying, it's going to be time. This is our year. And I didn't come here to sit back and say, oh, that's too hard. I can't do that. Because everybody I talk to, when I'm out talking to all of you, the stuff that you're telling me is right. This is an issue, you'll say. You'll point to something. This doesn't work because this piece of equipment is old. I mean, it's very empowering in the sense that you see it, we see it. Now we have to say, okay, let's do something about it. So this is a start today. I want to thank you for coming and participating. We need to hear your voices in this. We have a whole bunch of workshops and opportunities. This is a chance to shape this. I've been meeting with the CCOP leadership also. We're going to be crafting a new MOU for the resident leadership. And I've told the CCOP leadership the same thing I'm going to say here. It's going to be very detailed. It's going to specify things like what kind of meetings we're supposed to have, how we're supposed to engage. And then that means you can hold us accountable and we can hold staff accountable because it's defined and it's clear. So my message today is contribute, ask questions. Challenge us if you need to, and I certainly know that many of you will. And I believe we have a chance this year to do something historic together. We really have a chance to turn the direction of the organization, but more importantly, we have a chance to benefit hundreds of thousands of people together. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for the things that you've shared with me when I come to your properties and visit with you. I always come away wiser and smarter from talking with all of you. So thank you very much, and we'll get on with the rest of the program, and it's good to see all of you. Thank you.